Hello there and welcome to The Chamber, the TV show that aims to bring as much legal information to the audience as possible. So if you've got any legal questions, this is certainly the show for you. Now, we bring experts in, and there are two regular faces that you're going to see on The Chamber, and that is Jane Cousins and James Pickering KC. Let's take a moment right now to learn a little more about them.
What's the favourite case that we've been involved in together?
Oh God, my favourite, the most off-the-wall one ever, was David, because he'd run over an Arab sheikh, and he was really concerned that he was going to be extradited.
That's right, he was a serial customer of ours, a serial client. Do you remember the woman who let out her flat to a Premiership footballer?
Oh God, yeah.
We better not name the team.
Yeah.
And when he left, there was footballs literally all over the place. He was doing some uppers and downers, football marks everywhere. My clients are those with money. They're banks, they're PLCs, they're building societies, they're footballers, they're celebrity chef restaurants, boxing promoters, anything like that.
Those who have got the deepest pockets usually win. Those who can shout the loudest usually get the result. It really irritates me when we hold up our system as being a pillar of justice, because people are actually not getting their voice heard because they cannot afford legal advice.
So you just met James and Jane in the video, but I'm glad to tell you they're here in the studio. Let me introduce to them properly. We've got Jane Cousins here. Jane, I'm going to blow you a kiss.
Oh, thank you very much, Paul.
Thanks for being here. And James, great to see you on the show as well. Thank you.
Hi, Paul.
Now, your name is James Pickering KC. I wonder if I can just ask you what the KC stands for.
KC stands for King's Counsel. There are lots of different types of lawyers within the UK. One is a barrister. A barrister is someone who stands up in court and argues a case for someone, either because they are suing, they're bringing a claim, or because they're being sued, defending a claim. And a KC is a senior barrister who is appointed by the Crown.
Right. So do either of you get to wear the white wig that we see in the TV shows?
Yeah, that'll be me.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it itchy? Is it?
It is. And luckily,
And it's not very flattering either.
It's not very flattering. But luckily these days courtrooms are air conditioned. When I started they weren't always. But yeah, it's not the most comfy thing to wear. It's not the sexiest thing to wear, but we have to wear it.
Right. And in that video clip that we just saw, you were both talking about the way you would like to bring law and legal advice to the masses, to the general public, make it more accessible. So I wonder if you can just share a little bit about why you want to do that.
Yeah, well, we know the law is complex. You need lawyers. We know that lawyers are expensive and there isn't that access. So anything that we can do to help increase accessibility and increase affordability, anything we can do to help would be great.
Great. And yourself, Jane?
No, I totally echo what James was saying. I mean, I've worked in many large city law firms and people just simply can't afford to pay those levels of fees. They are really quite horrendous. So what I've tried to do in the past is work with law centres to offer help and support to people outside of a normal law firm environment, but it's a desperate need.
And I want to ask a question about law. We were telling the audience that they can email in, ask questions about the law and any legal advice that they might need. But my understanding is that not all parts of the UK are the same. So are we talking to England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland?
Short answer is yes.
Okay.
You're right, there are different jurisdictions or systems of law within the UK. England and Wales is a single jurisdiction, a single system.
Yeah.
Scotland is a single jurisdiction. Northern Ireland is a single jurisdiction. And then within the British Isles, you've got the Isle of Man and you've got the Channel Islands, each with their own systems. They're all pretty similar. If you know a bit about the law, you'll know a bit about these different systems, but there are differences and sometimes important differences.
Okay,
but the short answer to your point is, in terms of this, we're going to help everyone.
Great. So if you have got a question at home and you're thinking, I'd like to know this or I'd like to know that, please email in. We'll happily take your questions. And if we don't get to them today, then maybe on the next episode or the next episode or the next episode. I want to ask you a little bit about somebody, let's say, falls over and they want to sue a supermarket, for example. Is there a time restraint? Have they got a certain amount of time that they need to make that claim within?
Well, with any claim, there is a time limit. The particular time limit will depend on where you are, which jurisdiction, and the type of claim. But in England and Wales, generally, not always, but generally it's 6 years. In Scotland,
Wow.
generally, but not always, it's 5 years. But there are differences, and there's a reason for that. Some people think, well, why is there a time limit? But imagine you've got a claim, or imagine, Paul, someone sues you for something which happened 35 years ago. That's a bit unfair on you. It's been hanging over your head for that time. Also, to go to court after many years, people will have forgotten events, documents might have been destroyed. If you've got a case, you've got to bring it. You need a bit of time, but it's only fair, even if you've got a good case, to bring your case within a period of time.
Yeah.
So the short answer is yes, but the precise amount will depend on the country you're in within the UK and the type of case, and there are quite a few exceptions.
I'm really glad I've asked that question, because in my head I was actually thinking it might be a matter of weeks. I thought you might have said 6
Well,
weeks.
It's a shorter time limit for example, for personal injury cases. And it's really, really important to be mindful of the time limit. It's only 3 years, and quite a lot of people get it into their head that it's 6 years. And I had a personal injury claim, and I was right to the wire on whether or not I could issue proceedings. And so you have to be really vigilant about that, because once your time's out, It's a very exceptional circumstances.
Yeah.
So you have to be really mindful of it.
I've got to say, I know we're only at the start of today's show, but already you've given me insight and light bulb moments and learnings that, you know, if something had happened to me 3, 4, 5 years ago, I still got an opportunity to take care of that, whereas I would have guessed it was just a matter of weeks. Now, we said to the audience that they've got the opportunity to email in, and we will be taking questions from the audience, but Nicola's here today and she's got some idea of the questions that we can expect from the audience. Nicola, do you want to share some of the sorts of questions we can expect?
Absolutely, Paul. And as you've mentioned, we can actually help with any questions in any area of the law. So if we take, for example, perhaps a company law question, in this scenario, let's imagine a company director who doesn't want to be named has carelessly signed a personal guarantee in his own name on behalf of a limited company. Should he have been advised against that?
Who wants to answer that?
Well, it's a really good question, and it's one that I get asked a lot because I give independent legal advice. So quite often when you're taking out a loan, the banks will insist upon the person who's taking out the loan or guaranteeing the loan, in this case a personal guarantee, that they have this independent legal advice. And I was saying to James last week, it was really interesting, I had to give emergency independent legal advice to a guy who was hanging off the back of a yacht in Monaco, who was personally guaranteeing a 40 million euro loan.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I've got 30 seconds, and I'm going through a stack of documents like this. And he said, I'll ask you one question. If I sign this personal guarantee, am I a little bit, and he said a word we can't use, but anyway. And I actually said to him, no, if you sign that personal guarantee, you'll be more than a little bit, because you will be liable. And some people will say, I know James has got a view about this, that, you know, people who have a reasonable amount of intelligence should be able to read the small print themselves, and that you don't need independent legal advice. But to be honest, the banks insist on it to protect themselves. And I know you've got thoughts on that as well, James.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, should it be drawn to your attention? The answer is yes. But if it's not, and you signed it, you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
The general position in the law is if you sign a document, you are bound by it, whether you've read it or not, whether you understand it or not. It makes sense if you get legal advice. And as Jane said, banks will often insist upon it so they don't have to end up in court. But if it's not drawn to your attention on a guarantee and you've signed it, if you went to court, you would lose, I think.
Wow.
The banks would be able to say, you've signed it, and the fact it wasn't drawn to your attention is unlikely to be a defence.
Yeah.
So the short position is, be very careful what you sign.
And
Great.
I don't know about you, James, but I am constantly amazed that clients don't read the documents. And they go, oh, you've read it. And I'm going, you have to read the document. And people just don't want to.
Yeah, I've got to
for whatever reason.
put my hands in the air. I'm sure there's so many times when you're given something and you read through it, it's like 12 pages, 14 pages.
Yeah.
You just sign it.
I think the
And
vast
I
majority-
understand what you're saying.
I do too. We're lawyers, we rarely read it. But the short point is, you cannot then go back and say, but I didn't read it.
Yeah, that's your fault, your
Yeah.
mistake. Great. Hey, Nicola, I wonder if you could share another question with us.
Definitely, and actually this is a great question because this has happened to me personally and lots of my friends. So I've recently bought some clothes from a high street retailer. I've gotten them home, I've tried them on, and I've noticed that their shop soiled. And I went back to the store and I basically asked them for a refund, but they've told me I can only get a credit note. Is that accurate?
This is definitely one for Jane.
Yeah. It is one for me, and the answer is no, that is absolutely not correct. But I'll give you a little bit more context around it as well. So there is a piece of legislation called the Consumer Rights Act, which is there to protect consumers from misinformation, etc. So if the person who bought the goods, when they were not of what were called satisfactory quality, they were strop sold or whatever, they have the right to return the goods within 30 days. They have to do it within that time frame, and they can be given a full refund. Now, if the goods were bought in a sale, because I'm a big sale shopper, I only buy clothes in the sale, that doesn't matter if the goods are reduced. But it does matter if the defect is drawn or the soil goods are drawn to the attention before you purchase. You can't simply go back then and say...
So if they tell you it's a special price because...
The other thing that's really interesting...
So this defect, when you bought this jacket... you knew about
excuse
that,
me,
yeah?
this is a very nice jacket, I'll have you know.
Okay.
But the really interesting thing is, I'm a shopper, I like to go into the shop, but if I simply change my mind, then I have no right for a refund. I mean, you will often find that shops have more generous policies, but under the law, they don't have to refund you if you simply change your mind. Now, if you buy online, you do have a right to simply change your mind. So that's quite interesting. And the other thing that you should always think about when you're buying any goods is if you can use a credit card, because you get additional protection if you spend over £100. Something that I just learnt recently, actually, I should know, but if you buy a gift for someone else, you should make the shop aware that it is a gift, because your statutory rights are then transferred to the bearer of the gift. So in the unlikely event I was ever going to buy him a gift, I would actually say...
And after that last comment,
very
unlikely.
There's no chance of that. You were never on it, James. But anyway, so it's really important that you say that. So I could take the goods back if they were defective, but if it was a gift for James, he couldn't. Whereas if I say it's a gift, the rights are transferred to him. So,
Again, we've already learned so much information here right now. If you're at home thinking, I need to know this, or I've got a question, a burning question, legal advice that you'd like, then why not take the opportunity to either call us or email in right now. Let's take a short break before we continue our journey.
What's the first thing you think of when making contact with a solicitor? It's the cost, isn't it? Many people across the country have absolutely no access to the law or legal advice because they just can't afford the legal fees. Welcome to Burlington Law. Our national membership scheme means that everyone now can afford to be in touch with solicitors with no legal costs at the end of the case. So now everyone has access to the law. Now there is Burlington Law.
For those who are just joining us here on The Chamber, thank you for your company. This is the show that gives the general public the opportunity to learn about the law. You've got the opportunity to email in, call in and ask your questions. And in fact, if you wanted to, you've even got the opportunity to join us in the chamber. Keep watching the screen, you'll see information throughout the show. I'm going to ask Nicola for another question right now. Nicola, what sorts of questions can we expect from the audience?
Yeah, definitely. So this question, actually, I see quite a lot on my own social media. I see it often asked in different groups, people asking this question all the time. So say you've went to a supermarket and you've parked your car, you've done your shopping in the supermarket, maybe you've went on to visit other shops. You've come back and maybe you've been over time and you've got a £30 fee or some other sum that you have to pay. And you tell a friend about it, your friend said, actually, because that's not from the local council, you don't actually have to pay the fee. Is that true?
Yeah, great question. So is that true? I've got to share a quick story myself. I've had that where it was 50 pence. So I think after 6 o'clock we thought it was free and it wasn't. And apparently, again, small print, if you read the board and you read every little line, it's 50 pence. But because I didn't make the 50 pence, it wasn't £30, it was 90 quid, the fee, 90 quid. And then they offered to reduce it if you pay on time or within 30 days. But this is a new angle. You don't have to pay at all. Is that right or wrong?
That's completely wrong.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
So I've personal experience of this again because my errant son parked my car in a car park paid £1 for 1 hour. He stayed, he alleges he didn't, but the evidence suggests otherwise, that he stayed over the hour. I got a legal bill for court
By only
fees,
a couple of minutes?
By a couple of minutes for £900.
What?
Because The contract is with the the owner of the car park, and it is simply a contract. So you agree that you can be on that land for 1 hour or whatever. And he appealed it to the parking police, because they do have this organisation, and it was rejected. But because he hadn't paid the £60 within a certain amount of time, it then went to £120. And the first I knew about this was when I was buying something in a store, and they said, we'll check your credit reference. And they said, well, there's a county court judgment against that property. And I was like, what? And what had happened was, because he hadn't paid the additional 60, well, I hadn't paid, because that's what normally happens, they'd issued proceedings for £60. They'd got a judgment, and even though the proceedings weren't received by me or received at the house, the judgment was still valid, so I had to apply to set that judgment aside. It cost me £900 in court costs.
You must have been shocked.
I'm not even speaking to him anymore.
Yeah, that is unbelievable.
Paul,
Any experience?
the way to think of it is, it's a landowner who's offering a contract. Imagine you live near a football stadium, a rugby stadium, and your front drive, you have a sign saying, if you want to park here for an hour, you've got to pay £10. If you stay beyond an hour, it's going to cost X. A big sign. And if someone parks on your front drive, they see the sign, they enter into a contract with you. And they've got to abide by the terms.
Yeah.
This is assuming that there's a clear contract. And of course, on a more commercial level, that's exactly what car park owners do. They might be local councils, but they could be private, and many are private. And as long as they've got clear terms, if you enter onto their land, you have to abide by them. So it might be very frustrating, particularly when you overstay by just a minute or two. Yeah. But unfortunately for the car park user, for the driver, the car park owner is within its rights.
So when we see that big sign up on the window, all that little writing on it, that's the contract in essence.
It is, yeah.
It is. We should go and read it and make sure that we're within the requirements of it, to make sure that we don't get £900 bill.
Or don't get caught.
That's a bit risky.
Or don't lend us on your car. That's the best option.
Listen, I want to take the opportunity right now to remind you have got the opportunity to email in. If you've got questions, anything you'd like to know about the law, if you've got something you wish you could know, email in or call the team. If you'd like to come into the studios, and just keep watching the screen and you'll see the opportunity to do that. This is all about you. What we're trying to do here at the Chamber is make law and the information about the law more accessible, and that's exactly what James and Jane are doing. I'm going to take another question. Nicola, what else have we got?
Yeah, so I actually anticipate we'll get a lot of questions with people worried about being scammed. Okay, we're all worried about losing our money to places where it shouldn't go, right? So a question potentially from a business owner is that when we get told that we can actually reclaim charges from our energy suppliers, is that a scam, or can we actually claim significant monies back?
Oh, good one.
The answer to that is it's probably not a scam. It's very much akin to PPI claims.
Oh, yeah.
My diesel claims, there's really annoying adverts on the TV. So, in fact, last week someone contacted me about reclaiming mis-sold mortgage products. And he's starting a new company, and it's very much like this. And so it's probably not a scam. And energy bills, we all know, are horrific. And it's a way in which people can try and reclaim some of that money back. So I doubt it's a scam, but with anything, obviously,
Got to be careful.
you've got to be careful.
Yeah. So that PPI, that was the banks, wasn't it, when
Yes,
they were
yeah,
mis-selling
yeah.
products? And you're saying that now there's the diesel, that's
the
going
diesel.
on. So now there's also energy, got gas and electric
mortgage.
bills. And mortgages
Yes,
as well.
mortgage mis-selling, yeah.
So I think I've seen the adverts like that, and they generally end up being those no win, no fee. Is that the right way to say it? So is that a scam when people call you up and say, if we don't win, we don't charge you, and if we win, we collect some of the money?
It's not a scam, it's just another way that lawyers can get paid, or clients can afford to bring a case. I mean, the usual way, traditional way that people fund a case is you go to your solicitor, who may in turn instruct a barrister, and you pay as you go along. But that can be expensive. And so one method is to have this on-risk type of situation, no win, no fee, and you don't pay up front. And if you don't win, you don't pay.
Right.
But if you do win...
They take a lot, right?
Yeah, well, it's an uplift, because normally the lawyer, even lawyers have to eat, and they want to get paid as they go along. If you take a case on, it could last for a year, 2 or 3 years, and the lawyer therefore is not getting paid and might never get paid. So the traditional way, get paid as you go along. Otherwise, if the lawyer's prepared to take a risk, then the compensation, if you like, is they get their fees plus an uplift.
Great. Hey, I know we're very close to the end of the show, so I'd like to ask you a couple of personal questions. Both of you can answer this. One, what was it, let's start with Jane, what was it that made you want to go into law?
I'd like to say I had a burning desire to be a lawyer, but I think as my father basically said, you're not doing history at university, so that was basically you're doing law. But I actually have really enjoyed it. I've been practicing now for 33 years,
Wow.
something horrific
You
like
don't
that.
like it, love.
Oh, it's good. And, you know, I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the sort of the academic side of it. I'm a disputes lawyer, so I'm inherently argumentative and difficult, so it really suits me down to the ground. But it's very satisfying when people get an outcome, you know, especially when they wouldn't otherwise have perhaps got their money back, or we've done lots of things that mean make a big difference to people's lives, and you know, so that's the honest answer, actually.
Great. And yourself, James?
Well, apart from just an excuse to dress up and wear wigs and gowns, as Jane said, everything we do is a dispute. We're not the type of lawyers where people come to a transaction or whatever. People come to us because something has gone wrong, badly wrong. They're going to court either because they're bringing a case or they're defending a case. And if you go to court and you help them win that case, you help them to realise something. Or if they're being sued and these guys are under so much pressure and stress, and if you successfully defend them, again, it's a great feeling to help people in this battle. Yeah. Litigation or these sort of disputes are battles between different people, and if you can help them win that battle, it's very rewarding.
Okay, I'm going to ask you...
Fourth emergency service.
What was that?
The lawyers are fourth emergency service.
Yeah,
no,
it is.
James makes a really good point. People, it's all consuming, it's a dispute matter, and people get, have sleepless nights over it, and they don't understand the process. It's not that user-friendly. So it is really, it's a really satisfying feeling when someone gets the outcome that they deserve, actually.
Yeah. And of course, there's all that worry too about the cost of a lawyer. So you might want to go to a lawyer, and then and what would you normally do if you go to the high street and then knock on the door and ask for help? What would you normally do?
It depends, because you can't knock on James's door. He's on his chamber's door, because the public, there are certain restrictions, are not allowed to have direct access to barristers. So the barrister has to be instructed by me or a solicitor.
Right.
So I think the main thing is you need to get the right lawyer for what you want to do. And so High Street can do lots of things, conveyancing, wills, probate, whatever. But if you've got kind of cases that we litigate, you need someone who actually is a specialist in that field. So it's not that easy to find the right person, actually, and sometimes it's word of mouth. Sometimes you can ask the Law Society to recommend a solicitor for you, for example. And so sometimes it's just literally someone's word of mouth.
I'm going to put you both on the spot. I'm going to ask you if maybe you can talk. I know you're not allowed to talk about cases in detail and you can't share too much, but what's been one of the most interesting cases that you've ever worked on?
You'll go first?
I think the most interesting case we worked on together was
great. Perfect.
A guy we acted for called Cornelius and his animal sanctuary. That I think was a great case, James. And James won, so you know.
Yeah.
And what, he was being sued? I know you can't go into lots of details.
We can probably
talk about him.
We can probably talk about this case. I'll tell you a sort of shortened version. This was this guy who a really larger than life character, and he had set up an animal sanctuary, and it had people brought in like foxes with broken legs, and he would help them recover and then release them. Yeah. And by a certain time, he had like all these donkeys, foxes, some of it which couldn't be released back into the wild. And people would visit from the local community, and there were school trips there. And then one day the local council said, right, we're going to bulldozer this down. Because it transpired he didn't own the land. It wasn't his land, it belonged to the council. So he came to us it was on a pro bono case. So basically, it was we were doing this for no money to help him, and he was going to lose this sanctuary unless we could work out a way where we could defend it. And I won't go into all the details here, but in the end, we found a way where he could defeat the local council, and he could keep the animal sanctuary, and we won, I'm glad to say. So basically he could keep the animal sanctuary. At one stage it looked like he was going to lose all the animals, but we got them back for him.
But what I thought was, for me, it stood out from this case, because he was a lovely man and he couldn't read or write. So he was getting all these notices from the council and he was just throwing them in the bin because they meant nothing to him. But I always ask the question, can you remember what you were doing on the 6th of June 1990? And the reason that was an important question, most people go, I haven't got no clue. We had to put him at the animal sanctuary within a 6-week window, I think, wasn't it? And it was the Italia World Cup. And so we had people giving evidence to say that he was there because they were watching Gaza in his caravan. And when Gaza was sent off for crying, and we built the case around all of their
Gaza.
testimony, didn't we? Yeah. And to prove he was there.
That is amazing. Hey, I want to say a big thank you to both of you. Appreciate you both being here.
Paul.
And a quick reminder to everyone at home that you have got the opportunity to send in your emails. James and Jane want to help, so get those questions in. Let us help. If you've got a question that's in your mind, you're thinking, could I do this, could I do that? Well, rather than knocking on a door and paying hundreds of pounds, write to us right here at the Chamber. We'll see you on our next episode.